His latest article, The 12 Characteristics of Great Leaders, you can see it right there, appeared in Monday's issue of Quality Digest Daily. So, without further ado, it's my pleasure to welcome Mike Figliuolo back to the show. Hi, Mike. How are you today?
I'm doing great. Thank you very much for having me in.
Of course. Yeah, I think you've been on the show once before, and this is your second time or third time maybe. So great to have you back. Well, let's start off with kind of a somewhat abstract question maybe. Do you think, in your opinion, Mike, are great leaders made or are they born?
I think the answer is yes, and we joked about that before, but there's got to be a propensity on an individual's part to step into a leadership role, and I think that element of it is born, it's innate, people gravitate toward those roles, they take deep satisfaction from it. But I also believe that you can learn these skills. There are technical skills and capabilities that you can build over time to become a great leader. So it's that balance. Somebody has to want to do it, but once they do want to do it, they can pick up those skills. And as a guy who runs a training firm, I've seen thousands of people who come in to build those capabilities. And when they do, when they're serious about their own development, they can transform themselves into those great leaders.
Well, let's break that down a little bit, though, because I think this is an important part of this. And you're right in your piece that most of us kind of consider ourselves good leaders, but few are truly great. But given accurate self-analysis, it's kind of a hard thing. So how do you know if you're a good leader, and how do you know how good of a leader you really are?
For me, it's all about, are people willing to follow you? If you look behind you and there's a bunch of people moving in the same direction as you, you've got those leadership qualities. The way you can break that down on a day-to-day basis is look for the folks who have left a job and they go to a new role at a new company. How many people come along behind them? How many of their former team members work for them in a different situation? Another way to look at it is if you get in front of your team and say, hey, I've got a great idea, I've got a big challenge, let's go knock it down. And I don't know exactly how we're gonna get there, but you gotta trust me on this. And the team says, yeah, let's do it. We'll figure it out as we go. If they're willing to charge into that ambiguity and they're excited to do it behind you, that's a pretty good indicator that you've got the leadership skills to pull along a very capable following.
So let me just jump in there for a second, Mike, because what you're saying really is it comes down to having a deep bench. So, you need to then, I guess, hire the right people to make sure that those people that you bring in are those that are going to have the mindset to want to not only just follow you, but push back on you when need be as well, sometimes, I guess.
Yeah, I think the bench is important, but your job as a leader is to build that bench over time. I had a great boss at one point who told me, Mike, you want to aspire to be a net exporter of talent. And when I asked what he meant, he said, you want to bring people into your team, grow them, develop them, and then move them off of your team to their next great role and get them promoted and have them be successful in their career. And then what happens is you have to backfill for them. But you should bring in somebody who doesn't have the skills that that individual who just left had. And then you build that person up and move them on to the next role. Now that's challenging because you're creating holes in your team. But if you're a good leader, people know you have this reputation for people development, and you're gonna have a steady line of people at your door wanting to fill that bench. And it's a great place to be when you build that reputation and have people coming to you because they know they can be developed there.
Hey, Mike, in your article, you mentioned 12 characteristics of great leaders. So which ones of those really resonate with you personally? I guess in other words, which one or two do you consider the most important features of top leaders?
I think the ones that resonate the most for me are authenticity and decisiveness. So authenticity is just being who you are and being comfortable in your own skin, whether you're at work or at play, with family, with friends, and people knowing what you say is what you mean. There's no hidden agendas. You're not putting on any airs. You're not wearing a mask day to day. And that's difficult to do because authenticity requires vulnerability. You have to expose who you really are to your people and say, look, these are my strengths, these are my weaknesses. I'm not proud of these things that I've done. I am proud of these things. And that has risk associated with it. People are going to form their own judgments of you. So authenticity is tough to do, But if you do it well and you really let people see who you are, they know who they're following. They can build that relationship of trust with you because you're telling them, I trust you not to judge me. I trust you to accept me for who I am. So that's the authenticity piece. The decisiveness piece is you've got to make the call. You will never have perfect information, and there's a certain level of risk that you're going to have to assume. And those leaders who sit there and they hem and they haw, they go back and they never make the call, they paralyze their team, they frustrate their organization, and they fail to have impact. Now, when you're decisive, you're going to make mistakes. I've made plenty of mistakes over the years, but I've learned from them. I've tried to not make the same mistake again, but I've always tried to move the organization forward. And the best leaders I've worked for over the years are the ones who made those tough calls. They said, I don't know whether we should go left or right, but darn it, sitting still is just not a good idea. So those are the two that really sing out to me.
You know, Mike, I mentioned in the little intro I had that you're hosting an event in a couple of months, and it deals with all these types of issues we're getting into here. I think that the audience watching here today kind of gets a good perspective on who you are and how you can address some of these issues. You're very compelling with it. So can you give us a little bit maybe of insight into the conference and what folks are going to learn when they're there?
Yeah, so we're running a 2-day event in New York in November, and it's called Executive Insight 16. It's 2 days of content. So I hate conferences where you go and there's a ton of vendors and they're assaulting you with their business cards. And you also have content, but it's really a sponsored presentation. We've decided it's 2 days of pure content. We're bringing a bunch of executives together. The presentations are all by myself and members of my team. And we just want people to learn and walk away from this and say, I'm a better leader, I'm more capable because of the tools and techniques that I learned. So, you know, we're going to cover things like authenticity and decisiveness and a lot of the other topics that I covered in that article. This is one where I've tried to demonstrate some of those. So I tried to be decisive and I said, hey team, we're going to do this. I don't know exactly how we're going to get it done. This is only the second time we've done something like this, never on this scale, but let's go. Let's see what happens. And the team's been enthusiastic and clients have been enthusiastic. So I think it's going to be a fantastic event. I'd love to see some of your watchers out there in the audience there too.
Well, Mike, as I say, you're very compelling. I always enjoy your stuff, and this little segment here today I think was very interesting as well. All of you who are out there watching, you want to check out Mike's conference again in November. Check it out in his article. There's a little link out there where you can access information about it and register if you're interested, and go to New York in November. It's a beautiful time to actually be in New York, so check that out. And Mike Figliuolo, thanks again for joining us today, and we'll see you down the road.
It's my pleasure. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.